1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I've been to Huddersfield many times, but I've never been to Marsden.
To the best of my recollection, this is the first time I've been to Marsden.
Can I be really truthful about this? Because the agent said, you got to get in Marsden. So we went, where?
The thing about Marsden is you've always got to remember to look up, because if you're anywhere you look at any point around you, there are hills. We're about 700 feet up here. I think it's rather dramatic and exciting, and it gives another edge to the festival, I think. The fact that a lot of people who come up from the south are amazed by that we actually live in a place like this.
It's a really interesting bit of England, this. People don't realise this Pennine stretch. It's the history of the nation is written here, and I could go on a lot about the exploitation of the mill workers, but I won't.
Marsden Mechanics, where we hold the main festival, it's a vital heart of the village, really.
All the other venues spiral out from it, where here everything can be controlled, the offices are here, the displays and everything are here so people can find their way around, it's easy to find, so it acts as the hub of the whole festival.
Well, Marsden's a great village. It needs a sort of focus for a weekend in the year when people will come descending on this village in their hordes. Holmfirth had a folk festival. Huddersfield's got a contemporary music festival, so we thought, what should we do? And jazz, I like jazz. I didn't know a lot about jazz, I still don't know a lot about jazz.
I was involved in an organisation called Huddersfield Jazz, which still exists, and I was involved back in the 80s, late 80s, as a part of the house rhythm section, supporting visiting soloists. When Mike came to see us at Huddersfield Jazz, and he had this idea that the Mechanics Hall had just been renovated with a lot of local authority public money, and one of the conditions, I think, was that a wide range of cultural activities would be put on at the Mechanics Hall. That was really the genesis of it. And so it was Mike's idea to begin the Jazz Festival, and I became involved in the, I suppose, steering committee right from the start. And my band has been involved actively in the festival right since 1992, which was the first year.
I got involved in this festival through a friend of mine's a production manager for some major jazz festivals in the south, and he knows Mike Lucas through his work in theatre groups. And he suggested me, when Mike was looking for a proper PA, when he started having some big names on at the festival, because obviously these things grow from year to year. And when there were certain artists that required higher technical specification of gear than had been available to them previously, so that's why they got me in. And I do an awful lot of this. I do a lot of jazz festivals and a lot of jazz gigs all over the UK.
Anybody who gets on a committee like this, particularly a festival like the Marsden Festival, which is largely composed of volunteers, I mean, nobody's being paid apart from a small number of administrative staff. I mean, you know, it just means that the whole thing runs on home-cooked food. It runs on, you know, it runs on people sort of putting a lot of their own time into it, and you know, and that's why it can actually survive economically. I mean, you wouldn't believe the tiny budgets we've got, so you have to do everything.
Initially, I think when we first started doing the food, we did it in aid of the community association. But when we first started doing the Jazz Festival, we used to get some grant funding. But over the years, that's reduced. I think we get very little. I think we get some money from Jazz Action. But so everything we make now goes towards next year's Jazz Festival. It's the only thing really that makes any money.
Not only do the pubs and clubs in the village have jazz groups that does attract people from far and wide, I believe, it also affects or helps other businesses.
The Jazz Festival brings people into the village, which is good, and it's interesting because there's a feeling of anticipation during the weeks preceding it, as the shopkeepers get ready and the cafes get ready. They open special hours to cater for people coming into the village. The bed and breakfast people prepare themselves, and the community association works at developing the accommodation in the village and so on. So there is really a feeling of excitement as the Jazz Festival approaches each year.
Do we need to keep these?
Good evening and welcome to the 8th Annual Marsden Jazz Festival. Would you please welcome on stage, ladies and gentlemen, Kenny Baker, his half dozen, Bider Beck, and all that jazz.
We're doing these things with my friend Alan Plater, who wrote all the stuff for the Beiderbecke Affair, the Beiderbecke Connection, the Beiderbecke tapes, which we were put together in Leeds by Yorkshire Television. And I provided most of I provided the trumpet sound, the cornet sound, because it's all connected with the legendary Bix Beiderbecke.
I tell little jazz stories because I don't play anything, I don't sing, I do write. So I tell little jazz stories, and Kenny and the band play tunes. And since Kenny's been around even longer than I have, he knows lots of tunes. The guys know lots of tunes, and I know lots of stories. So it's a story, and it's a tune, and it's a story, and it's a tune.
They're good, aren't they? I sit there thinking I could listen to this band all night. Then I realise I am listening to this. Now, according to the Oxford Companion to Music, a zither has a flat soundboard with 4 or 5 melody strings to play the tune, and 37 accompanying strings to play the umpire bits. The one Les had brought looked like the real article. I did the unforgivable thing. Give us a tune, I said. Les gave me a pained look, then ran his fingers across the strings. All the notes sounded identical. You can get that same effect strumming on our canary's cage, I said.
The committee have decided and deliberately gone for a very eclectic approach to the type of music we have. I think that's one of Marsden's big successes, that we have trad jazz sitting alongside the more avant-garde people like Billy Jenkins. So I think it's that mixture that is an attractive proposition for people. People who might not otherwise want to hear more modern jazz might just take a chance because they've been to see a trad band at one part of the festival. They might take a risk and say, okay, we'll check that out. And I think that broad spectrum of music is what gives it its appeal, really.
We've got an amazing concert this afternoon with Billy Jenkins, where it's going to actually be improvising within a boxing ring.
The big fight is a
fight between the listener and the musician, because the musician has lost the listener because there's too much noise in this modern day society.
A musical fight to the finish between, on my right, the Southern City.
It's a mixture of combining a wide variety of musicians. We've got academics on stage, we've got complete avant-gardists, we've got insane trumpet players. A nice mixture of all types.
I can't stand playing to like just the jazz police, you know, who if you do something a bit, not a jazz tune, they're like, oh, what's going on here? Pay no attention to what's said. Why people tell the seam of anyone's dream is over my head. I think there are benefits to be gained from playing at a festival like this because there are people here from all over and you never know who's going to see you. And by that, I mean to give you other work, not to sort of make you famous or anything like that. It doesn't happen in jazz. So I think there are a lot of benefits to be gained, especially like that kind of crowd, because they're not all jazz fans. But does that mean that I'm untrue when we're apart? The words of my heart reveal how I feel about you. A kiss may cloud my memory, and other arms may hold a thrill. But please do nothing till you hear it from me. No, no, you never will.
Oh, it's a good tale, that, isn't it, Brian? Yeah, that's a great tale.
My name's Mike Owen. I was born in Birmingham in England and been living in New Orleans for the last 10 years, playing Dixieland with the bands out there and some of the old players. I'm back in England for a while, playing around some of the jazz festivals and some of the old musicians I used to know when I lived in England.
So how come you're at Marsden today then?
I know Dave Brennan. I used to do some jobs with him when I lived in England, and he called me up, said, do you want to do it? And I'm pleased to come up here.
The parade band, which is the Jubilee New Orleans Parade Band, is formed in the style of street bands from New Orleans, sort of functional bands that do weddings and funerals and parades and so on, and it's a tradition that we've brought over here. The people are really assembled from jazz musicians that either play in my jazz band or they play in other jazz bands in the area, and they're assembled together because they know the idiom, they know the tunes, and they've got the uniform.
The difference about Marsden is that we bring loads of different types of music together over one weekend. It's a very eclectic festival, from school bands learning, about jazz to right hard-edge modern. We've got everything.
I'm here today at the Marsden Jazz Festival with Hemel and White Grammar School Band. We're just about to go on stage, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I've been playing jazz for about 20 years now, and I've found that it is very useful in the classroom because it's an alternative way to introducing youngsters to music other than the normal serious music and of course pop, which they're very familiar with. But jazz obviously gives you opportunity to do such things as improvisation, both rhythmic and melodic. So to be able to play in a band like this and rehearse quite regularly in school is obviously a very good experience for the youngsters.
most of the jazz groups, say 10, 11 years ago, were kind of high profile, you know, Courtney's band, Steve's band, and if you couldn't play, you weren't going to get in those bands, so it was kind of hard for anybody to learn the trade. So New Troupe was a band that I started at a workshop in London called at the Jazz Cafe, a Saturday afternoon workshop, which became Tomorrow's Warriors, and that's how New Troupe started. Passing a shop one day and I saw a double bass in the window. I was about 19. And I said to my fellow apprentice, I used to play one of those, and he laughed at me. And that just fired me up. Ever since, it's been my love. I prefer to come to jazz festivals in these sort of parts, or these small places where everybody knows each other and very friendly people.
The Marsden Jazz Festival works because it's very diverse. It's also in a very small geographical area, so it's an ideal place to visit for a weekend, and you can just immerse yourself in all types of music. Most jazz festivals in large towns don't work because the distances are too great. Here the whole community gets involved.
It's very different to, say, a really big festival like Brecon, where thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds is spent and thousands of people turn up. Ours is, it always will be, quite a small festival, and we only have a few thousand. But I think that's what makes it unique. Everybody always comes and says, what a friendly festival.
It's nice for a place as small as Marsden and often as isolated to have such a lot of coming and going.
Got everything in the pubs, from trad right through to Blue Note. Loads of stuff in the mechanics. We've got school bands. We've got crafts shops. Just this time, for the first time, we've got a German sausage stall. So this is and a bouncy castle. So apart from the music, there's lots of other things as well.
We realised that there was an opportunity when lots of people come into the village for the jazz festival for people who live here who make things and sell them. We've got a captive audience, so we got organised and rented the shop for the weekend. Marsden Makers isn't actually an organisation as such. In fact, this year we're people who live in Marsden, 2 German women from Wolverhampton and some Zulus, but the principle remains that it's almost entirely local work.
It's almost not about jazz, although jazz is at the part of it. It's actually to turn a village into a very, very lively place for one weekend a year. It is actually a very lively village in itself, but suddenly people come from all over the country, and even from America. I've just met the American who's here, and they come together for one thing, to listen to music, but also because it's in a beautifully sunny Pennine setting. Oh, it is still a dramatic setting, even though it's drizzling here rather nicely.
I started on clarinet, and I worked in a Dixieland band for a while in the very late 50s. But when I heard Charlie Parker, I went on to alto saxophone. But I have played a lot of tenor saxophone over the years, and I played soprano sax as well now.
Anywhere's an ideal setting for a jazz festival because of there's not that many festivals about, so we need as many as possible.
It's not so much Marsden as the people in Marsden that make it.
Oh, it's good fun. You wouldn't do it every year if you didn't enjoy doing it.
It's been absolutely fantastic. I feel very lucky to have been given the chance to play here. And it's great, and the more people that come, the better. The more people that know about it, the better, especially with jazz.
Well, it's all over. Here we are clearing up, look. This is a sad moment in one sense, but a bit of a relief in the other. The weekend's actually happened and it's all over, and it's been very successful. I don't know how many people have been to the festival. 2,000 or 3,000 people. I've no idea. It's difficult to account. But everybody who's come up and said what a great festival it is.
I can't wait to come back.
Thanks for supporting jazz. Tell your friends, tell your families, doctors, bank managers, aircraft pilots. Tell them what a great music this is.